Hey, welcome everybody. Merry Christmas. Can I say Merry Christmas? It's December 1st, and my little girl has been just like going crazy trying to play holiday music, trying to play Christmas music before we even finish Thanksgiving. And so we made it through one holiday and we're on to the next. So Merry Christmas to y'all. Big welcome. It's good to see you. And yeah, if there's any new faces here, big welcome to you. Any returning faces, if it's been a minute, welcome back. Welcome back. Okay, so this week, Friday, December 6th, we're going to have our next retreat, and it's going to be on spiritual empowerment. And, most of us on planet Earth struggle with issues of power. And, you know, we spend our life chasing after outward forms of power. And of course, on this retreat, we're going to talk about the inner forms of power, the power to have control over oneself. Like that's a big deal on the spiritual path. It's really hard to be on the spiritual path if we have addictions. But again, most people think of power in terms of like outward means. If we have a lot of wealth or prestige or status, the whole world is chasing after power in this department. And whenever you're in a relationship, you'll see there's all these little power dynamics, sometimes massive power dynamics in relationships between husbands and wives, and partners and sisters and brothers, and mother and child, or father and child, or whatever. Even among Sangha members, I see, sometimes there's people who are fighting, to be close to the guru, or, different people fighting within the Sangha. And, if you ever walk into a room and if you could look psychically, you could see that there's all these energies where people are reaching out to others and wanting to be seen, wanting to be heard, wanting to be acknowledged, or wanting to assert themselves. And, I've been on many retreats where people broke down in tears over a seat, just wanting to sit somewhere, like having their seat in some kind of special place. And, sometimes if retreats get crowded, someone's seat might get moved. And, we've all had this, I've seen this in yoga studios too. A lot of people coming into the studio and someone moves your mat. And, I've seen people just lose their mind, over these little power games. And so there's this whole psychology of power. And of course, there's this whole soul development, like an archetypal soul development that we're going to explore. And we'll be looking at, different forms of power, like the power to be impersonal, to see life from the vast view. There's the power to love and to respond with love to people who've been angry or mean or uh, obnoxious toward us. Of course, there's the power of forgiveness. There's the power of compassion. My mother does this thing where my mother's kind of been outspoken. She has a big voice and a big presence. And, sometimes she gets herself in trouble just for being big or being big. And so then she goes on a mission to really flood the person who's attacking her or judging her. My mother goes on this mission to flood them with kindness. And, sometimes she'll spend like a couple years just trying to be kind to a person, to win them over. And she does. And she does. We'll also look at, the power of our will, and, like when is the time to truly assert ourselves. So there's the time to let go, and that's a power, knowing when it's time to let go. And also this power of knowing when it's time to stand in your truth, to stand in your truth, to speak your truth, or how about to tell your truth? And we spoke about that a couple satsangs back. And so I'm looking forward to this retreat. And this retreat is probably going to have a lot more inquiry and little inquiry groups and meetings and private inquiry sessions with yourself to really investigate, your issues and how you kind of struggle with power, how we all struggle with power. And when we study ourselves, it helps us to understand, well, what's going on with others, what's going on with others, what's going on with the world. And it helps us to be compassionate toward the world. And so I hope you can join December 6th through the 8th. That's this coming weekend, 2024. Okay. Let me just take a moment here and make sure that I have all the buttons pressed, and I think I got everything right. Yeah, it appears so. Okay. So if I just would continue a little bit speaking about power, all of us are on this path, and all of us have some level of healing work to do, some level of trauma. And, any kind of healing work, any kind of movement on the spiritual path is going to be a movement of empowerment. Like all healing work is about you getting your power back from the past. From the past. Now, most of you should be old enough to know there's this great song, Landslide, by Fleetwood Mac. And, one of the beginning lines, it goes something like, I've been afraid of changing because I've built my life around you. And the fundamental ingredient of ego is like the ego is like this giant program of habit, And the ego, it doesn't really want to change, doesn't want to change, just wants to do the same thing over and over again. And when we fall into that dimension of habit, and if you ever feel yourself in habit, it feels like you don't have any power. It just feels like you're on autopilot, you're on cruise control, you're just floating. You're just floating. And this is how the ego lives, is as it gets, it lives its life in this avenue of habit. And most of us are terrified of changing. Because if we change, it means we have to step into our power. It means we don't actually know what's going to happen. There's going to be this feeling of being out of control. And so anytime when we make a step on the path, there's always this question of, well, like, what will happen? What will happen? Like I took my little girl out into the woods the other day, and I was taking her to one of my favorite little hikes, and I have like 30 hikes just off like off the edges of my neighborhood, and so one of the hikes is this it's like a giant rock garden. An old friend of mine used to own this piece of land, and anyways, but it has these just giant boulders. And I'm always like, hey, let's get out, let's climb some boulders, let's get out in the woods. And my little girl says, but Dad, what kind of animals are there? And I know what she's thinking. She's still terrified of that bear who came into our yard, ate up her guinea pigs, tore them apart. And so, I'm comforting her, and there's possible that there's some bear there, and there's possible that there's a mountain lion or a lynx or a bobcat, but good chance there's not. So I just told her, hey, sweetie, there's just squirrels. There's just squirrels. That's all there is. You don't have to worry. You don't have to worry. You'll be with your daddy. But she's saying, I'm going to try something new. Let's stay home. Because that's what our ego would tell us. Let's stay home and let's stay safe. But on the spiritual path, we have this push in us. This push is this energy of evolution. It's an energy of the divine, which is inviting us to expand our worldview, to expand our sense of strength, to expand our love, to expand our compassion. And it's a great question just for us to ask, at the end of the day, like, did my compassion grow? Did it expand? Did it go into some uncharted territory? Or, did I just stay in my little, in my shell, like a turtle, and save all my compassion for myself? But did I grow? Did I expand here on the path? Here on the path. And, habit can be a real nasty thing. Like, I've got this old friend. I've actually known him since I was like, I don't know, I guess in the 6th grade. I've known this kid, and he lives down the street from me, but he really struggles with addiction. And I feel into, like, when I walk by his house, I'm going to go on a hike. I walk by his house and I feel into it. And there's just this habit of alcoholism, a habit of addiction, a habit of being in this fog. And he's had a really hard time getting out of this habit. And so when I'm walking by his house, I'm busy sending him love and sending love into his house and inviting a new way of being for him, a way of being that's actually in alignment with his true nature, because he has a sweetheart. He has a sweetheart. But, sometimes when we come into this world and we have a sweet and a tender heart, this world is too much for us. And so we drink, to numb ourselves from the pain. And then we take that on as a habit. We take that on as a habit. And so I'm going to invite us all just to close our eyes right now and to feel into the spaciousness of our being. The spaciousness, the eternal nature of our being. And so if your mind is empty, you come into an empty mind, and you feel your consciousness expanding. If your heart is open and at ease, I feel this expansive presence of love. And I'm going to invite us just right now to stay in these higher dimensions of love and an expansive consciousness. And just noticing, like, what it is like to be in your divinity. Letting it grow, letting it expand and spread out. Feeling this innate goodness and this luminosity. Feeling your fundamental sense of aliveness. What you are is good. It's divine. Yeah. And so we're breathing and we're feeling. We're opening to our divinity. Taking a couple more breaths and getting rooted more fully in our divinity. And while we're doing this, I'm just going to ask you an inquiry question. Am I rooted in my divinity? Throughout the day, throughout my waking state? Or is habit rooted in me? and running the show. And so here it is. For most of us, it's evening, but whatever time of day it is for you, reflect and recollect on your life. Do we walk around awake and aware, happy, vibrant, and free? Or, like my friend Jennifer asks, like, do we walk around like an old stick in the mud? Like an old stick in the mud. Like what kind of being are we? What kind of being are we? Are we rooted in the light? Or are we rooted in something else? Like some of us are rooted in this real guarded nature, a nature that doesn't trust, a nature that's on edge, just waiting for someone around us to make a mistake, maybe waiting for this spiritual teacher to make a mistake. And if you wait, you'll see, I will make mistakes. I will. But with the ego gets stuck in these programs, where it demands the world to be perfect or perfect manifestation of what we think should be. The ego's tends to be unforgiving, judgmental, harsh, critical. Sometimes the ego is turned inward upon itself, it's judging itself, attacking itself, attacking our partner. And so I invite you just to look. Is my natural state throughout the day that I'm resting in love, kindness, forgiveness, and understanding? Or am I rooted in judgment, criticism? The wounded child. It's the wounded child ruling me. Yeah, sometimes the wounded child plays this game where he feels hurt and scared, and holds it all in, is scared of the adults in the room. And then when the wounded child grows up into an adult body, starts having tantrums all the time. They're in tantrums all the time. And so if we see it, if we see a wounded child within us, if we see a sabotaging force within us, these are programs of ego. If we see a prostitute within us, that's just someone who dances, for money, who sells their soul, who sells their truth for someone else's, or for recognition. Most of us, we have these archetypes within us. We have a wounded child. We have a wounded child who has tantrums, a saboteur who is afraid of change, like I was speaking about in the song. Afraid of change. So it's going to sabotage and keep everything as the status quo. We have a prostitute who sells herself short, is really what a prostitute does. Sells themselves short. And so we're just looking and investigating. And of course, if we're being honest, we see, well, there's both here. There's this divinity, this radiance, this clarity. And then we have a humanity that grasps that love. grasps that attention, desires things that we think will complete us. We might have things within us, places within us, energies within us that have given our power away to false gods. You know, in the modern age, that's basically politicians and movie stars, false gods. Have we given our power away to false gods? And sometimes that happens here on planet Earth, with so much lying, so much lying in our media and the pharmaceutical companies, and all these politicians wanting to get us involved in world wars and this chaos and confusion. There's so much lying going on. And sometimes we get wrapped up in that. And so this is a moment for us to unhook. And so I want us all to imagine climbing a great mountain and looking back down on the valley below, looking at the drama of your human life. And can you see that drama from this impersonal perspective? A vast view. And you see all of these programs that us humans have gotten stuck in. Can you see your programs? And can you ask, which ones would you like to let go of? Which would you like to surrender? Who would you like to forgive? What places within you need more compassion and kindness? And what are some qualities that you could work upon? What are some spiritual qualities that you would like to manifest or invoke? And so let us take another deep, full breath, and let us invite the grace of God, the grace of the Divine Mother to come into us and to support us stepping into these spiritual qualities that we find ourselves deficient in. And so one of the great movements of the Divine Mother is the Divine Mother wants to support, and nothing makes her happier than for her to come into us and to support our evolving nature. Support a greater sense of strength, of light, of love, of compassion coming online within us. And so I want you just to feel like you're drawing in this energy, this grace from the Divine Mother. And it's okay to be humble and say, oh, Divine Mother, I need you. I need you. I need your support. I cannot do this alone. I need you to come into me and uplift me, to get me out of this darkness, or this hell, or this pain, or this confusion. I want you. I need you to come into me. And I want you to notice, just as we say this, I want you. I need you. And if there's a sincerity within you, you'll notice this grace intensify, this light coming more fully into our being. And so I'm going to invite you to stay open to this light, stay open to this transmission. And you can join me in saying, thank you. Thank you, Divine Mother, for shining your light down into me, down into us. Thank you for blessing our planet, our world, our being. And we ask you, Mother, to shine more and more of your light down here to the consciousness of the earth, to the consciousness of the human species. And we're inviting a revolution of consciousness where humanity begins to wake up, inviting a new world order, an order of love, of light, of compassion. And Divine Mother, like maybe we need to start with forgiveness, forgiving each other for all the harm we've caused each other, but we're inviting a new order, your will to be triumphant. So breathing, feeling, softening, feeling your primordial nature, and then feeling your human nature and that paradox, and inviting the divine to flow down, transforming our human nature, transforming all human nature, transforming this earth, so that our primordial nature, which is already good, can manifest unobstructed, And so we continue to open, we continue to receive and love. And so you can gently open your eyes if you like, and I welcome you here. And please, let me say this, just one more thing about the retreat. I want you all, like if you plan on coming, please sign up in advance because, we're in Mercury in retrograde right now, and there's so many little things that I see that are just off in the realm of communication. So sign up early and get your link and all that kind of stuff. But I was at 2 engagements this weekend, and one was with Santa Claus and one was at church, and both times they had trouble with a microphone. So Santa Claus was up singing and dancing on the stage and couldn't hear a word Santa was saying. We saw a lot of smiles and waves, but couldn't hear what Santa was saying. And they brought out singers, and couldn't hear the Christmas songs, and so that was unfortunate. And then we went to church this morning, and it was a family mass, and they do this thing once a month where they invite all the little children up to the front of the church, and they give them all musical instruments, and and they're all little kids, and they're all just like banging on the instruments, and you can't hear what the priest is saying because the little kids are just being wild. And it's like, come on guys, let's, who's running this circus, and so I think normally it's twice a year Mercury goes into retrograde, and we're in that time right now. So it's that time when communication gets off, and technology breaks down, and this and that. And so let's just be conscious of that. But we're not going to stop our life. We're going to continue going forward. Okay. So I'm going to invite you all to share a little bit, about what came forward in the inquiry. In this little meditation, I'm going to invite some more participation here in the Sangha. So you can write a little something in the chat, and you can raise your hand if you want to share something. And I was really reflecting today on power, because we have this retreat coming up. And let me tell you, one of my favorite things to do here on planet Earth is to get on a motorcycle and ride that thing, like open that throttle up all the way, like all the way. I like to take that bike as fast as it can go. And, in this modern age where, they're starting to make, like electric vehicles, they're making electric dirt bikes, electric bikes, all this kind of thing. But there is something about, a gas guzzling dirt bike or super bike or race car where you just feel the raw power of it. You feel it. There's just nothing in the world like it. Nothing in the world like it. Now, if you've ever been a cowboy or cowgirl, if you ever rode a horse before, there's something amazing. Like when you're on a really big, powerful animal. I was once on a horse and that thing took off. I held on for dear life, and it was absolutely thrilling and terrifying. And well, I'll just leave it at that. It is an incredible experience to be on a big animal like that, to be riding that animal and it taking off. And the same thing with the dirt bike. It's just like when you can open up that throttle and just let it rip. And in a real funny sense, like you might think, like, I'm just like this crazy guy riding my dirt bike as fast as I can, which is true. But I actually rode my bike over, just like along this mountainside. I'm on my teacher's just buried like, maybe a mile, maybe less than a mile from me, just as a crow flies. And so, I raced my dirt bike over there, and there's just something so incredibly thrilling about it, and I'm going to say something crazy, but if you can ever ride a motorcycle without a helmet, that's incredible. I try to keep a helmet on my head, but there's just this feeling that comes of being so alive, so free. And when I can't remember how old I was, maybe 12, 13 years old, my older brother got a dirt bike. And, of course, I'm going to ride that thing. And, I hopped on that bike, and, I can remember I had this jean jacket on, and no helmet. I was just racing around my backyard, but just that feeling of being a kid, being, when you're a kid back in the olden days before cell phones, it felt like you were just like kind of like chained, imprisoned in your parents' house. I don't know what it is about cell phones that give kids some kind of feeling of freedom or disconnection from their family. But in the olden days, we couldn't wait till we could get a driver's license. But before that, if you're a young kid and you could get on a dirt bike and just ride that thing as fast as you could, there's just such a feeling of aliveness and freedom. That's so amazing. Wind blowing through your hair, on a hot summer day, just seeing, the horizon and all the wild animals, getting up and running, as you're romping your way through the bushes on that dirt bike. But anyways, it just makes me smile, makes you feel so alive on the path. So I rode, up the hill and, over to my teacher's gravesite. And as soon as I got there, I just have this thing that happens to me as I fall on my knees, and I just realize how much I need my teacher's presence in my life, how much I need him, how much I need God, how much I need the divine. This is such a difficult world that we live in. And, there's fun little experiences we can have, like racing our dirt bike, and, we can chase after this, we can chase after that. But nothing compares to a deep connection with a God, a personal connection and an impersonal knowing. These are great forms of power when you can plug into the divine, when you're having a hard day. This is ability to plug into God on a hard day. Well, that ability might save your life. Definitely has the power to change the direction of your day. And of course, in a non-dual sense, this ability to know that you are the divine. To bypass the human completely and to know in an absolute sense that you are the divine. Now, this is one of the ultimate powers. But most of us, even if we rest in our non-dual nature, most of us, if we are in any form of relationship here on planet Earth, if we are in a human body, there's going to be an evolutionary self that needs support, that needs guidance, that needs grace. What is grace? Is this love, this divine intelligence that's pouring down in this room right now. We need this. I need this. I need this. And it's funny because, I was just out ripping around on my motorcycle and I just felt called to go visit, my teachers, Mahasamadhi. And as soon as I got there, I just, something just jumped out of my heart. And said, I need you, David. I need you. And part of being on this path is having the humility to spend some time in recollection where you really look at your human life, your humanity, and just see like, well, how has your humanity been doing? How's it been going? How have your relationships been? Has kindness just flowed from your heart? Or has there been angst? Has there been fear? And I can tell you this week, I had a number of moments of fear where, I just saw on, some form of news that, Putin launched this crazy missile, it would normally be armed with a nuclear warhead. And all these people are talking about nuclear war. And, FEMA just, updated its website to, have some information about what to do if nuclear war comes. And I had a good friend of mine. He's actually he works with somehow managing the nuclear warheads that we have here in the United States. And and so I always check in with him. I'm like, hey man, like, what's the situation? Do I need to be worried? And he's in that world of military intelligence and classification and all that kind of stuff. And so he's only allowed to say certain things to me. But he says, saying, Craig, we've been extremely busy lately, more busy than we've been in decades. And it's like, that's the kind of stuff that brings up childhood trauma within me. Like, I grew up in the 70s and the 80s. And, when we were at school, we'd have these drills where we would, flip our desks over and like hide behind our desk, or we'd go down to the basement of the school to the, nuclear fallout shelter. And I'm just like, oh my God, like, I just remember being terrified. And as a little boy, my father, he had the news on every night during dinner, every night. And so it was always Reagan and whoever the other guy was, I can't remember who it was, Gorbachev or whoever, and just this arms race. And I just always remember how many MX missiles they would write like on the screen, how many missiles we had or were making every night. And it was just like they kept showing them over and over again. And as a kid, I was just terrified of this, absolutely terrified. Absolutely terrified. And so when I'm seeing people flexing, with nukes again, I'm just like, oh my God, Lord, please come here, help us, help us, God, help us. And when I went and saw my teacher, this childlike part of me was like, David, I need you. I need you just to comfort my humanity. And just this whole thing with the way our world is set up is insane. It's insane where we have faith in these leaders. And it's like most of the time the leaders are fools. It's like Who are these people? We only get to vote for them every now and then. It's not like, I like voting every day with my dollar. Every day. I'd say, I want the organic food, not the pesticide food. Every day I get to vote with my dollar. And I love that. But the way our world is set up with these insane people who push us into these wars, it's just crazy. And so we ask God to come, to be with us, to hold us, to uplift us, to be with the leaders, to help them choose peace, to choose love, to choose truth, truth over violence, truth over violence. And so, we ask the same thing. God coming to us and to uplift our souls, uplift our spirits. Get us out of this age of darkness, Lord. And so there's these great truths that what is in one is in the all. And the invitation here is for us to take charge of our life, through us doing our work, through us healing, through us managing our anxiety, through us inviting God's light into our anxiety, into our fears, into our sadness, into our grief, into our angst. Invite the qualities of forgiveness and compassion to triumph. And so together, as we join in satsang, we connect with our absolute nature, but we also invite the divine to come down into our human nature, to upgrade our human nature. Okay, so let's take a look here at, I want to look at the chat and see what you all shared here. Okay. Don writes, a recognition came up of a willful insistence on doing it myself. It was a wonderful grace that emerged as you invited us to be humble and willing to ask the Mother for help. Thank you. Yeah. And this is a trap that, I often get in on the spiritual path, and many of us get in, is just this idea of, I got to do it all by myself. And many of us, when we were children, we were wounded in one form or another by our parents, and we lost faith in this greater, like the greater support of the world, which, when we're kids, it's our parents and God, but most of us don't know about God when we're kids. But we just think of our parents, and if our parents really let us down, our ego makes this decision. Okay, I have to do this life all by myself. I have to do it all by myself. And when I feel into that energy of having to do it all by myself, it brings me to just like heartbreaking tears. Because there's been times, if I can reflect back, I can see there's times in my life when I thought, I have to do this whole path, my life, all by myself, all by myself. Like that's the ego's ideology. It's the ego's program. But of course, I'm inviting a greater program. It's a program of humility, a humility that comes through a willingness to say, okay, God, I don't got this. I don't got this life. I don't got it figured out. I don't. Lord, I need you to lead me, to guide me. Oh, Divine Mother, lead me, guide me, lead us, guide us. Bring forth a greater way, a greater way, a greater way. Yeah, thank you, Don. Thank you. That's beautiful share. Okay. And this is something that I learned with my teacher, David, is you can invite the Divine Mother to be with you every single moment of your life. Every moment of your life. In the beginning, we just call out to her, we ask, we might, just open up a little bit and feel just a little trickle of grace. But if we keep opening, you might find yourself in this world where grace is just burning in you all the time. Like sometimes I just lay down and I've had a long day and I lay down in bed and I'm just like, oh my God, there's this divine fire that's just burning inside me. And, sometimes I don't even notice it because I'm just busy with whatever my human life is. And I lay down, I close my eyes, I just take a moment. It's like, oh, look, this grace is here. And so if you keep opening, this grace can be like a fountain that never stops within you. Okay, beautiful. Let's hear from Aaron here. I felt a depth of power in the natural movement of my life. At this stage, I feel spaciousness and much less identification. From that place, there's a full life energy that has a natural direction, an effortless direction, a sense of deep grounded power. Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. That's wonderful. Matthew writes, immense light dissolving shame in my heart and terror in my belly. Yeah, yeah, that's the light of transformation. Beautiful, Matthew. Okay, Lauren writes, a very childlike quality came as the grace flowed. I said a few times, Mama, I need you. It was very sweet. Yeah, yeah. Look, I want you to call the Divine Mother or whatever name makes sense to you. And some people might be God, some people might be Mama, and there's Mama, and if we're in India, it's Amma. It's the same thing. Same thing. Yeah. Yeah. Beautiful. Kyle writes, a year ago, I began opening to signs from life about Hawaii. Before that, I had this belief that Hawaii was a place for rich people to go on vacation, and I am more like a backpacker. However, after many signs, I booked a beautiful room on the beach of Kauai for this past week. I felt empowered to spend my hard-earned money and enjoy laying on the beach in paradise for a week. I noticed an immense safety from the Divine Mother here on earth in the form of the warm tropics, the ocean, and the lush rainforest. My body feel more relaxed and empowered this last week. Yeah. Yeah. What a gift, Kyle. What a gift to be able to give yourself. Beautiful. Okay. Taylor writes, I felt a waking up of support in my pelvic floor, a kind of empowerment as support, as love, and as the divine having my back completely there. I experienced it as me asking for support as a human to the Divine Mother and simply my own consciousness waking up and being with myself. Yeah, this is beautiful what Taylor's writing. And often the further we walk on the path, we find this radical sense of non-duality. That's not a radical in a fundamentalist sense, but it's radical in an inclusive sense, where you'll feel yourself as all of life, and all of life holding this human self. And you'll also feel this human self reaching out to all of life to be held, to be nurtured, to be supported. And it's a real paradox. It's a real paradox. It's so difficult to explain this, but knowing that you are the earth and the earth is here supporting you. Now, if you write that down in a sentence, you see like, well, that doesn't make sense. Knowing you are the earth and experiencing the earth here supporting you. And so the further we walk on this path, we find that our sense of self begins to dissolve and becomes much more transparent and etheric. And it becomes much more vast and embodied. And it starts to embody all of creation. And then at the same time, we live this paradox of having a human body that can really struggle. Really struggle. There's many times when, I'm just walking along in a state of openness, and then all of a sudden I'll feel like some great despair or depression that just come over my humanity. And, sometimes it's something of mine from the past. Sometimes it belongs to one of my children or someone in my family. Sometimes it belongs to, someone here in the Sangha. And I just keep walking, I keep opening, I invite the divine to be with what's here. And sometimes I've done this a number of times this week where I said, okay, God, like I'm walking through some really thick, dense fog here. I don't know what this is about, but I'm going to give this to you to fix, to hold, to heal. And I'm going to keep walking until I feel it resolved, until I feel it resolved. And so I'll go on these hikes on this, this mountainside, and I just walk around and keep walking. Say, okay, do I need to walk a little bit more? Yeah, I need to walk a little bit more. And I walk a little bit more. And then I start to feel it really lifting, and then lifting more and lifting more. And I say, okay, thank you, God. Thank you. Thank you for lifting off of me whatever this pain is, or transmuting this pain into light, into light. And so I'm going to invite, I'm going to invite you all to play with this. If you find yourself in any realm of darkness, of course, that's a common thing. As we're going deeper and deeper into winter, like winter's a tough season for me. It's a lot of time being inside, and sometimes there's some heavy energies that can come over us. A lot of times in the summer, we're out, we're running around, we're busy. But winter's a time of reflection and going inward. It's a time, when these days are getting so short, and sometimes I meet with people in, like Sweden or Norway, or, up north in Canada somewhere. And, I'll talk to them, and all of a sudden the room turns black. I'll be like, what time is it there? And like, it's 3 o'clock. Like, why is it turning black outside at 3 o'clock? But, there's a lot of darkness this time of year. And sometimes, it's just outward, but sometimes it's outward and inward. And so if we find old guilt or old shame or old addictions coming forward, even though it's cold, I'm going to invite you to go out on a walk and to set this intention of, I'm going to keep walking. Keep walking. I'm going to continue walking until I'm free of this thing. But like Don brought up in the beginning, like I was, acknowledging, you don't have to carry that burden yourself. While you're walking, I invite you to have this feeling of unloading. Unloading. And so when we're out in nature walking, it's a great thing just for your mental health, by the way, in the winter, but just to go out and to walk and to allow your eyes to see the clouds, the expanse of the sky, allowing your consciousness to expand and spread out. And have this sense of, if there's any heaviness or weight, well, it's like you're just like lifting it up and giving it to God. Or you can even imagine just like kind of scooping it up out of you and just dropping it behind you, just giving it back to life, giving it back to earth. So we're giving it to God, or just giving it to the earth, giving it back to the earth, and allowing yourself to be cleansed, to be cleared, to be emptied, giving yourself permission to let the past be the past, to let the past die and see the beauty of this moment, the beauty of this moment. And there's so much beauty in this world, so much beauty, so much chaos and confusion as well, but so much beauty. I went out last night, just taking my two little dogs out last night, and I saw the biggest, not the big, it's probably the second biggest shooting star I've ever seen. This giant shooting star, just something in me just said, look up, and I looked up. And it was funny too, because it didn't just go in a straight line. It kind of squirreled, it zigzagged a little bit. I was like, oh, wow, that's a really cool shooting star. And it went out just like right past my house, so just like went all the way across the sky, and then just right past my yard, the light went out. I was listening for a thud. I was like waiting for that meteor to hit the ground, but it was so incredible, so bright. And of course, I made a wish. I made a wish. But when your eyes are open, when you're outside, you see so much beauty. And the other thing I've been seeing lately is I have this buck in my neighborhood, and it's one buck, and he's got 12 ladies, so he's got a harem, and he's just keeping charge of them and always kind of rounding them up, and keeping them all under his control and his domain. And it's something, but it's just something to watch him, and him and all these ladies. We have all these pumpkins out, and sometimes they come through our yard and eat our pumpkins, and it's just sweet to see. Sweet to see. Like this, I was out the other day, and God, this deer was so close. I just could have reached out and touched her. And they're big too. We have these big mule deers, which are different than the white-tailed deers you have back east. They're much larger. But anyways, just seeing their beauty and their innocence and their purity, such a gift, such a gift. And so when our eyes are open, we see the beauty of life. But also when our eyes are open, we see the chaos of life. We see the confusion of life. We see, the pain that we've carried from the past. And it's important to know how to work with this pain. It's important to know how to let go and to empty out. So often I think of humans as being sponge-like, especially if we're spiritual beings, if we're empaths, we can we can pick up a lot of stuff here on planet Earth. And if that's you, if you find yourself as really sensitive and taking things on, it's so important that we learn how to empty these things out. And the more and more as we walk and we empty these things out, and we meditate and we empty these things out, we breathe and we exhale and we empty these things out of us, we find ourselves in a space of freedom. It's much easier to love when you are empty. But if you're full of stress, if you're full of angst, if you're full of judgment, if you're full of thoughts like this person shouldn't be like this, they shouldn't, do this or that, always judging and nitpicking them, it's very difficult to be free. Very difficult to be free. And it's really quite a dilemma that we find ourselves in. That we are these incredible spiritual beings, but in these animal bodies and these tribal bodies. We had this thing with within my family where my little girl, she recently had to change schools because we're just having trouble with the education at the Catholic school. It's just a small school, and they didn't have all the resources that my little girl needed, and so we had to change schools. And some of the people from our old school, the Catholic school, the tribe of the Catholic kind of institution, some of the people snubbed us, because we left the school. And I'm like, well, we're still going to the church, but my wife, she said she felt really snubbed, by a couple people because we had to take our daughter out and move her to a different school. And it was heartbreaking for us, to leave one tribe and to go look at this new tribe. But this new tribe, it seems like it's a better fit for my girl, a better fit. And so we have to honor that. But it's just wild the way human beings treat each other and how we react to each other. And, so many of us have this just massive tribal overlay. And it causes so much pain in our world. So much pain. And the question is can we live in a way that's beyond tribal thinking? Can we live in a way that is actually free? Can we live in a way that engages our heart? That engages our heart. Instead of just engaging in, tribal warfare. It's like if we want the violence of the world to end, it starts with us. Can we stop the violence within us? Can we stop the division within us? The judgment, the shaming, the criticism. Can we look out at the world and see the world from a place of love, from a place of unity? And for most of us, this is very difficult. Someone comes and pokes at our tribe, and we throw we throw some rocks back at them. We throw rocks in their direction, and that's not the way. It's not the way. It's not the way. So let me see what else is written here. Anne, you wrote swimming naked in the river. Give me a little context here. I forgot what my question was, but swimming naked in the river. Give me, write it down, write something in the chat. I want you to know, I want to know what, fill that out a little bit more for me. Catherine writes, what was my question? The things that came up during the inquiry. So Catherine writes, why do I suck? And so that's the energy of self-judgment. Now, if any of you know Catherine, she is a bright light, big bright light. And sometimes when we're a bright light, we're given a mind that's sharp and it's critical. And we don't see our own light. We just judge ourselves. And it's a difficult thing when we're on the spiritual path. We're trying to meditate, and it's like there's just a voice within us that has some form of judgment or self-hatred, and in one sense it's totally understandable, because our human self, like if we're honest, right, our human self makes mistakes all the time and drops the ball and might struggle with addictions or can't control itself. And so, sometimes, our ego self, it's out of control. And then another part of the ego hates the part that's out of control. And so we have this inner division, and we might have thoughts of like, why do I suck? When the reality is that we're all children of God, that we are divine beings, and we were given this computer program, our thinking mind and our egoic emotional nature. That's really, an old, outdated, animal, tribal kind of programming. And it's just creates a real mess and confusion within us. Yeah. Blair writes, God, please show me the way. Please show me the way. Yeah. Please show me the way. Okay. Anne writes, I forgot the question. It's like the motorcycle. Yeah. Okay. So that feeling of freedom is okay. Good. Thank you, Anne, for starting me out here, because I'm like, why did she write swimming naked in the river? Yeah, it's that feeling of being absolutely free. And listen, I don't know about you, but like if I'm swimming, like I don't think so much about swimming in rivers, but if I'm swimming in the ocean, like a lot of times I'm thinking, man, is there a shark here? Like, is it going to eat me up? Is it going to gobble me up? And, That's a fearful thing. That's a fearful thing to imagine. But when we have that sense of freedom, we're not thinking in terms of fear. We're just thinking about being open and fluid and just that beauty, like Anna's writing about, us swimming naked in the river. And this is what freedom can feel like, really open and vulnerable and floating and being held and being carried and being supported. It's like, what a gift. What a gift. So thank you, Anne. Thanks for straightening me out here about what we're talking about. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Lauren, right. It's like an exam. You don't know the answer, so you just write something down. Thanks, Lauren. Thanks for making me smile here. Yeah. Yeah. So anyways. Okay. Well, let's do this just before we're done tonight. Again, I'm going to invite us to close our eyes. And I'm going to invite you to feel into your heart and just notice the love of your heart. To notice how big and expansive this love is. And if there's any limitation within you right now, I want to invite you to take a deep breath and to soften there and invite this love to expand, to surpass any limitation within yourself. And so we're breathing, we're feeling, we're softening and experiencing this love that you are. And inviting this love to shine out past the edges of your body, past the edges of the room you're in, shining out, flooding the entirety of your house, blessing everyone and everything in your home, shining out further still and blessing everyone and everything in your community, shining out, blessing everyone and everything in your nation, shining out, blessing everyone, blessing all beings, blessing the entirety of planet Earth. Inviting a harmony to begin to emerge again between humanity and the earth. Us humans have gotten in so much trouble. The violence that we have done to this beautiful planet, the pillaging of this planet. Let's invite a harmony again between humanity and this earth. Between humanity and the plant, the animal kingdoms, the waters, the oceans, the rivers. Inviting a harmony among all the tribes of planet Earth, all the tribes waking up and recognizing we're all one One human race. One human race. We're breathing, we're feeling, we're opening, inviting love, compassion, light, and harmony to flow throughout creation. To flow throughout creation. And so beautiful to be with each of you. I want to remind everyone of one final warning before the retreat. So often, before we take a big step on the path, we tend to be challenged. So this week, we're in Mercury in retrograde, so we have that going on. But normally before a retreat, or maybe not normally, but often before a retreat, there'll be a little challenge that comes up in your life. And I encourage you, if it does, to have a little smile, to take a deep breath, and to walk forward to God. Walk forward in the direction of the truth. Walk forward. Now, yesterday, I took two little girls ice skating, and at the ice rink, we had some. Well, I'll just say this: like sometimes when you go to the ice rink, it's full of hockey players, and they skate real fast. Sometimes it's full of little ballerinas and they skate real sweetly and are twirling around in circles. Sometimes when you go to the ice rink, it's full of hillbillies and cowboys who don't know how to ice skate and they're flopping their arms all around and they might take you out. They might take you out. I kept grabbing my little girl saying, stay close to your dad. Watch out for those wild ones. There's wild people here on planet Earth. You ever seen a cowboy on ice skates? It's a heck of a sight. It's a heck of a sight. It's like putting ice skates on a bull. Um, but anyways, just take note, that sometimes we're challenged before we step foot onto retreat. And I tell you the same thing after retreat. Sometimes there's a challenge right before, sometimes there's a challenge right after. Just do your best to show up. Do your best to show up. And look, if any of you are having any financial difficulty and need a scholarship, just reach out to me and I'll be happy to provide one of those. And so that's no problem. So I just hope you can all come, and we'll continue to have our group Wednesday night and Wednesday morning for the Kundalini group. But in the meantime, so much love to each of you. Go forth, sharing your light in the world. Such a blessing to be with you, and deep bow respect to each of you. Thank you all so much. Good night, everyone. Good to see you.